You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. But let's do a chit chat about the device itself. So this is a very interesting overall, let's say, configuration. So they went for the 4 shoulder buttons, and yeah, there is not a lot of differences in the height. So like the first generation of, let's say, devices, they had the same issues. At the back we're finding a speaker, and this thing is quite loud. So you can really see over here that we're having one tiny battery, but it seems to be having a 2000 milliamp, where the sticker says like 15 on it. Okay, that's interesting. Overall, we're having over here no connections whatsoever, because over here at the right side we're getting the power, an option for micro SD card, and the reset. At the bottom we're finding some interesting connections like an HDMI mini. Then we're having over here the headphone jack in USB and the mini USB for charging. But particularly when it comes to this particular port, I just wanted to see what happens if we're going to be plugging in the HDMI and the USB. Can we use this thing like in Gamebox? Alright, so let's do a chit chat about how comfortable this device is. So first of all, the configuration is weird. We have seen this before. I think it was with the Pow Kitty having the 2 analog sticks, and they chose for the analog sticks of the slider kind. And I'm not a big fan of these things. But however, there's nothing to do about it. The D-pad itself does have a very nice curve to it, but it has a very long travel and a lot of resistance underneath. Select, start, escape, and the volume over here, and then of course last but not least the ABXY. And if you're going to be looking at this is absolutely very strange configuration and not comfortable at all. So the reason why, because if you're going to be using this with the D-pad or an analog stick, I find it such a weird configuration that they put the ABXY button at the right bottom corner. That is so weird. But first let's power it on and let's see how the menu will look. Is this the same crazy like stuff that we have seen before with those first generation X handhelds? Oh man, they should ban those things. Oh man, you can just see the LED at the front. That is very bright and very annoying. But it boots up very quickly, and here we're finding the menu. It is slightly different now. So this is more like one of those handhelds. It's just a plug and play situation. And I mean particularly when you're looking at the software, there is no tinkering needed. Just like turn this thing on, go select your emulator and just play your games. But let's chit chat about the PlayStation emulation, because this is a quite interesting and strange story. So I wanted to try to boot up Tekken, but that doesn't work at all. It doesn't boot up. Maybe this is just a general problem when it comes to the emulation or the file itself. We do have the option for changing disks, so that is quite important, having like multiple disk games. But let's say you're having Pandemonium over here, so let's boot it up. Some games will boot up, some don't, and it's absolutely weird shenanigans going all the way. But how about the display itself? The display is quite good, actually. So I'm surprised that they added a good display for once. But how about the overall emulation performance? That is going to be a different story. So pressing the shoulder buttons, here we're having the list, history, favorite, and file. And with file we do have like different options. For example, we can get into the files and getting some videos going on. I have no idea what is actually on this thing. There's just some random stuff. Let's lower the volume over here. And in here we're finding all kinds of weird video files. Let's see, what is this? So the overall, let's say, performance of watching some videos is quite good. And I don't see any problems going there. So it's kind of nice that we can even watch some videos. And the display itself, it's quite good. Okay, so besides that, having all kinds of different, let's say, options. What is kind of weird, you can see like I'm moving over here with favorites, but it just stays on this menu. So you need to press the A button for going back, and then we can switch between, let's say, some other listing. How is with the emulation performance, and what are we getting there? This device has, let's say, the simple things like 8-bit, 6-bit, and some arcade. With arcade, the more demanding games like Killer Instinct, Tekken MAME, those who are not on here, they will not work at all. And going to the next page, because you have 2 pages over here. We're having music, photos, dictionary, and in here we're finding the settings. Settings, we're having display settings, brightness, can we change out there, powering off. Okay, idle time and sleeping time can be adjusted. File sorting mode, that's kind of interesting that they added this. And then having the language and advanced with some information. Here we're finding the storage, the number, this is actually version number 1. The key tune can be changed to off and other version. Format the internal memory, don't do this. Seriously, like if you're going to be doing this, everything will be actually, what it says, it will like wipe everything, a reset, it's going to be resetting all of the settings. But that's actually what it is when it comes to the menu. And let's boot up a game and let's see how that actually works out. So let's choose GBA, inheriting building games and internal memory. It's kind of weird that they have two different choices. Let's see, internal memory, and this is actually the SD card, I'm guessing. That is not implemented. You can boot up a game like that, just boot it up a couple of seconds without any problem. Pressing the escape button will give you the special menu, giving you the quick load, quick save, and the settings in here. Sound output, and that's kind of weird that we have the option for on and off, screen size, and that is kind of cool that we're having scale over here, so an aspect ratio have been implemented. And let's go back to the game, and whoa, yeah, okay. That is not the way how we actually want to screen size, so let's put it on full. I don't know what's going on with that, but okay, that seems to be working fine. But that's kind of weird. So we're going to be testing that particular part out with the aspect ratio with different emulators, but not be surprised that it's going to be giving us a lot of issues. So let's start off with some NES and Battle City. I do wonder about one particular thing. It's like, how does it actually work when it comes to the aspect ratio? Because that was kind of weird. Whoa, that flashing thing was not supposed to be happening. I don't also know what's going to be on. What's happening with the freaking like audio? Do we need to hold it? Or do I need to go out of the... Oh, there we go. So in the game itself, it doesn't work at all. That is some weird shit going on. Seriously. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to see what happens if you're going to be doing the aspect ratio. Oh crap! They completely like swapped everything around, and I mean particularly when it comes to the A and B situation, because B is entering and A is going back. It's so freaking confusing. But what I actually wanted to try is going to the settings and having the screen set to scale. Let's see how that looks with a different emulator. Oh. Okay, so with NES seems to be working just fine. That flashing thing is not that is not normal. Okay, everything seems to be working just fine when it comes to this. Okay, so when it comes to NES emulation, also the aspect ratio, that seems to be working just fine. So that's absolutely great. I did notice when you're setting this to this aspect ratio, it will automatically put every single emulator in that certain overall, let's say, aspect ratio. So getting into the Game Boy Classic, you do see some glitches going on. That is not like it's supposed to be. So I cannot really like enjoy playing these weird Game Boy games. Yeah, okay, so it's glitching all the way. So let's go back to the normal settings. Screen size, full screen. Let's see if it still has the same problem. Okay, so the problem is actually when you're going to be putting in the aspect ratio in, it's going to be having the same weird glitches going on. So that is quite unfortunate. And let's try this Tetris Flash game. I have never seen this before, by the way. But let's go to the settings again. Let's see what happens. It's going to be screen sizing to scaling and put it return game. And here you can just see that it seems to be working just fine. For some time it seems to be booting up. But let's get into the gameplay and let's showcase how it actually works out. Because that is the thing with these devices. Sometimes you do find some great performance. You can just see that so far so good. And that is the thing I don't understand, like where they're going wrong with this, because we do have some great overall performance with PlayStation. So for PlayStation it's kind of cool. So if you're searching for a really cheap device, we do have the option, but I don't know if the emulator running on this supports every game, because Tekken doesn't work at all. Maybe it has to do something with the file, but Pandemonium seems to be working just great. But this is something you should pick up for PlayStation emulation. It's very, like say, debatable, because there are so many ways you can now play PlayStation 1. Another thing I wanted to see what happens if you're going to be messing with the aspect ratio and HDMI out. Screen size, let's see what happens. Return to the game. Okay, that seems to be working just fine. So let's plug this thing into the HDMI port on top and let's see if this functionality works in the game, or do we need to reset it or whatsoever. Okay, so let's get into the HDMI part. So I'm going to be using a converter. What's kind of weird that we do have this on the bottom part, so yeah, that's not going to be very convenient. But however, let's plug this thing in. Let's see what happens. If it's going to be booting automatically into the device itself, that would be great. I see there's going to be signal. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the aspect ratio doesn't work for the TV out, so far I can see. That's absolutely awesome, so we can just enjoy yourself. Let's double check it. Settings, screen size, scale, nope, 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 nope. So it's kind of interesting that the software itself doesn't really work when it comes to, let's say, the TV out function. So, and then is of course the other thing that we can check out. So what happens if you're going to be using this with a controller? So I'm getting the X-input Xbox. The reason why, because most devices are compatible with this. Okay, so let's plug this thing in. So it will automatically show maybe something. It doesn't show anything at all. So when it comes to this situation, maybe we can reboot the game itself or the emulator just to see what happens. We don't have anything going on. So it looks like this thing doesn't want to be like configured at all. But that's quite unfortunate. So when it comes to the controller, that part is quite difficult to get this thing to be working as a game system. Would be cool, like to plug this thing in and just play it like that.